Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely ready to dive into this one today because we are looking at a story that is so much more than just ancient history. This is a word for anybody who has ever had to pray through the pain. We're unpacking the story of Hannah from the book of 1 Samuel. But look, we aren't just doing typical Sunday school right now. This is a profound, incredibly relevant survival guide for modern life. We're going to break down how to stop fighting your critics, how to navigate spaces that completely misunderstand you, and how to take your deepest heartbreak and turn it into a force that can literally shift your destiny. We really have to start right here. Stop pretending you have it all together when you're secretly breaking inside. There is just this heavy, relentless cultural pressure on us to simply endure, to put on our Sunday best, flash a smile, and be that strong black woman or the unbothered pillar of the community who holds everyone else together even while you are secretly falling apart inside. We're taught that wearing that mask of perfection is a virtue, so we just bottle up the frustration and the grief. But as we're going to see in Hannah's life, that mask, it is suffocating. Authenticity with yourself and with God is actually the very first step toward your breakthrough. Section 1. The Pain and the Provoker. Toxic dynamics and the weight of being misunderstood. To truly understand the magnitude of Hannah's victory, we have to look at the deeply toxic dynamics she was surviving every single day. In her world, a woman's value was entirely tied to her ability to produce an heir. So this wasn't just a personal disappointment for her, she was essentially deemed culturally worthless and legally vulnerable. And to make matters worse, she lived in the exact same household as her husband's other wife, Peninnah, who did have children. Think of Peninnah as that ultimate frenemy, or that family member with the slick, underhanded comments at the cookout. She literally weaponized Hannah's pain, constantly taunting her. It was relentless, it was public, and profoundly draining. Hannah was living in a constant state of marginalization. Now, society tells us that when someone comes for you, you have to defend yourself, right? You take it to Twitter, you take it to Instagram, you trade insults, and you spend your precious energy clapping back just to put them in their place. But Hannah took a completely different route. She took all of that toxic energy, all the rocks being thrown at her, and she took it straight to the altar. She didn't let her haters distract her. She used their negativity as literal fuel for her faith. When you let the provocation drive you to your purpose instead of your pride, you strip their words of absolutely all their power. Section 2. Misjudged by the system. When institutions fail to see your pain. So, Hannah is at the temple, pouring out her absolute soul. She is weeping bitterly, her lips are moving but no sound is coming out. And Eli the priest, the top spiritual leader, looks at her and assumes she's drunk. This right here is classic church hurt. It's the establishment looking down on raw, authentic emotion. Eli saw her unconventional behavior, but he completely missed the heavy burden she was actually carrying. And honestly, how deeply does that resonate with the Black experience today? Being completely mischaracterized, being labeled as aggressive or too much or unprofessional when you are simply expressing deep, legitimate pain. And this isn't just an ancient problem, it is a systemic reality. The human brain is bombarded with information constantly, so it relies on mental shortcuts. But those shortcuts aren't objective, they are shaped by personal biases and cultural blind spots. Just think about how this plays out in modern systems, like in healthcare or the justice system. When the system encounters someone whose grief or whose pain doesn't fit neatly into their polite, respectable little boxes, they label them. They label us. And these automatic assumptions lead directly to the unfair dismissal and misdiagnosis of genuine pain. Section 3. Stop praying pretty words. The power of raw, unfiltered authenticity. Listen, real prayers are not polite or polished. They are messy. We have got to stop trying to pray in King James English when our hearts are breaking in plain English. We so often think we need to use the right theological vocabulary, check all the boxes, and keep it all together. But Hannah didn't pray from her head. She prayed from her broken heart. This is the power of the ugly cry at the altar. God doesn't need your polished performance. He needs your vulnerability. If you are angry, tell him. If you are hurting, tell him. The moment you stop performing is the exact moment your communication actually gets through. And it was that raw honesty that led to a massive turning point where the text says, the Lord remembered her. Now, the Hebrew word used there is zakar. It does not mean God had somehow forgotten about Hannah and suddenly jogged his memory. No, zakar means God moved intentionally on her behalf at exactly the right time. He may not come when you want him, but he is always right on time. That delay wasn't a denial. God was actually waiting for the exact right moment in history, not just to give Hannah a baby, but to birth Samuel, a prophet who would literally change the course of an entire nation. Section 4. Change posture before proof. Finding peace while you're still in the storm. This verse, 1 Samuel 1:18, is absolutely powerful. After she poured out her heart, it says she went her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. Listen to that timing. She wasn't pregnant yet. Peninnah was still in her house. The circumstances had not changed one single bit. But Hannah fixed her face. She got up from that altar, wiped her tears, and chose to walk in the authority of a handled situation way before the pregnancy test ever read positive. That is true faith right there, changing your countenance before the blessing actually arrives. Society will always try to point out everything you lack. No easy life, zero cultural support, no quick solutions, and absolutely no tangible proof that things will get better. But look at the profound spiritual weapons Hannah actually possessed. Raw honesty, faith before seeing proof, unshakable integrity, a willingness to radically sacrifice. We spend so much of our time complaining about the worldly advantages we don't have that we completely forget about the spiritual authority we already carry. Hannah flipped the entire script by simply using what she already had. Section 5. The joy of radical surrender. Giving back what you cherish most. So Hannah had made a vow that if she received a son, she would dedicate him back. And after years of desperate waiting, when she finally held that baby, she kept her promise. She didn't parade Samuel around to flex on her haters. She didn't use the miracle just to make Peninnah mad. She knew the blessing wasn't just for her vanity. It was for the culture. It was for the nation. She partnered with a bigger vision. Keeping a promise when it costs you what you wanted most, that is the ultimate test of integrity. The deepest joy comes not from getting what we want, but from surrendering what we want to God. And this is the great paradox. Think about open hands versus closed fists. You simply cannot receive what God has next for you if your fists are closed tightly around what you're afraid to lose. We think holding on to our dreams brings us joy, but holding on too tightly actually strangles the blessing. When Hannah opened her hands and surrendered Samuel, she didn't lose him. She gained a legacy, she had more children, and she found a freedom that could not be touched. So how do we actually walk this out today? Number 1. Stop the performance. Pray honestly and rawly this week. Number 2, choose faith before the proof. Fix your face today and claim that peace right in the middle of the storm. Number 3, only make vows you actually mean. Don't let your emotions write checks your spirit can't cash. Number 4, keep the promises you've already made. And number 5, surrender what you're holding too tightly. Open those fists and trust that what you release into God's hands will always, always multiply. Hannah took her deepest heartbreak, navigated a system that fundamentally misunderstood her, refused to lower herself to her critics, and turned her pain into a massive legacy. She found her victory not in hoarding the blessing, but in letting it go. So I have to ask you today, what are you holding on to? It is time to stop fighting battles that belong to God, to lay down that exhausting burden of always having to be the strong one, and to find the ultimate freedom that only comes when we surrender. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope you carry this word with you into whatever season you are walking through right now.